Welcome back to another episode of Elevate Your Grind, brought to you by the Cannabis Lab. I am your host, Todd Rosales, and we have a very special episode for you today, folks. This is something I've wanted to do since the pandemic started, just because, it's hard for us to get on location at a lot of different places and film. Social distancing and then grows as they are very kind of clean spaces. So right before the pandemic, I went on a trip with a friend of mine, Dave Levy, who some of you might know from Real Cloud Pros, and we went out to see a few companies out in Colorado. I had the opportunity to meet my guest today. We took a tour of his facility. I was extremely impressed. It was the first grow tour I'd ever been on, and honestly, it is still one of the best since every tour I take, I compare to this one. So I'm very excited to share it with you all. Just so you know, again, February 6th, folks, is going to be the annual C-Lab conference. For more information, join CLab.com. We'll be releasing speaker information, all sorts of information as it's coming. So tune in every week, and we'll be talking more and more about that. Of course, sign up for the lab report and get that information delivered directly to your inbox. For last week's episodes, you can see those at youtube.com/elevateyourgrind. Of course, we'd love it if you can like and subscribe. All right. And then tomorrow, Robert Beasley from Fluent, he's going to be on 6:30 p.m. right here at facebook.com/Canna Group. Really excited about that conversation. I think this is one of the first podcasts he's doing in the state of Florida. So it's going to be your first time hearing him here. My guest today, folks, like I said, I got to meet him, is one of the last people I actually got to hang out with before the pandemic happened. So one of the last person I got to tour the grow and do everything else. Please welcome Brooks Lustig, CEO of Seed & Smith. Brooks, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Todd. Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys.
Absolutely. So I appreciate you being my test dummy in this virtual tour. I know that you're your grow inside and out, and I figured if anybody can pull it off, it might as well be you. You've done this 100 times, and we'll figure out how this iPhone technology works as you move throughout the building.
Okay. Well, hopefully we're all hooked up and ready to go. And happy to take you guys on the tour today. We'll do the best we can with my limited cameraman skills, but I think we got plenty to show you. We'll walk you through the production rooms as well as the extraction lab, and we'll show everybody what Seed & Smith is all about here.
Very cool, man. So I want to, before we start the tour real quick, you and I touched on this real quick right before we started recording. The backstory about how you were able to get into cannabis is awesome. It's like every group of friends that, sit around, they were smoking, wants this to happen to them, right? So you have a buddy who, I don't remember if he won or he placed at the World Series of Poker, and essentially said, hey man, let's start a cannabis company. Can you embellish on that a little bit? Because that literally, I can't imagine how many groups of friends are sitting around waiting for something like that to happen to them.
Yeah, so my buddy Paul, who I've been close with since third grade or even earlier, we played pee-wee soccer together and all that good stuff, did science fair projects together. In 2006, he was riding the online poker wave, and he had made enough money to enter the main event of the World Series live out in Vegas. So he did all that, and quite honestly, I got a call late one night saying, I don't care what you're doing, get on a plane to Vegas now. I'm at the final table that's happening in the morning, and I'm guaranteed $1 million. So make it happen, and we'll take care of the rest. And so sure enough, our little group got on the plane and showed up in Vegas, and we watched Paul work his way up to second place in the 2006 World Series of Poker, which was the first place pot was the largest pot I think ever paid out. I don't know about the last couple of years, if I have that right or not.
Dude, that is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it was a fun weekend for sure, and so that's where the seed money came from. And a couple of years later, in 2009, he kind of, we had our own little garden like anybody else, and it was the worst little thing imaginable that, people wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole these days. But, he came to me, he's like, hey, medical marijuana is going to be big. let's do it. And for better or for worse, you know, I said, all right, let's do it. And that was really how it all started. And we formed a company which is now called Kaya Cannabis. It used to be called Southwest Alternative Care, you know, way back when, but we basically started what became Kaya in 2009. We built my job was to build a 5,000 square foot warehouse to see if we could do this thing. We built that in 2010, had a bunch of success there. That warehouse is still operational today, and you know, probably produces on the order of 1,500 pounds a year out of 5,000 square feet, which is, you know, for all the growers out there, you know, it's a little something to write home about. And you know, has been going strong for almost 10 years. And so, you know, really happy with that. By 2012, we had done well enough where we had one store and we had one grow, but we basically doubled down. We got a second store and a second grow, you know, kind of built grow version 2. And that one has been, you know, also 5,000 square feet, produces just over what the Boulder grow produces, and, you know, still running strong today. That brings me kind of to Seed & Smith here. You know, in 2014, we were approached by a guy named Barry LaBelle, who said, hey, I want to do this on a bigger scale than what you guys have done so far. You know, it's impressive, but let's do more. And the result was we struck a deal in 2015, and I was lucky enough to be able to build, you know, from the ground up. I guess we had the 4 exterior walls, you know, but you know, we got to design and build from the ground up a custom cannabis production, cultivation, extraction facility. And we're lucky enough where we're zoned here to also be able to have a dispensary on site that we really use like a tap room or a tasting room. And, you know, that's kind of, I'm standing in the cultivation area. I don't know if you can see behind me. And sorry if I'm spinning around too fast for people. I don't want to make anybody sick. We'll go slower when we see the plants. But yeah, you know, that's where you guys all are today, and plan on walking you through. So feel incredibly fortunate to be a part of it. And, you know, look, we, before COVID and all this nonsense, we were open for tours to the public all the time. Seed & Smith, we really believe in transparency in what we do, and we want to show it off. So as soon as this stuff is over, you know, please accept my invitation right now to come on back and see it for yourself. But hopefully this holds you over for the time being.
I hope everybody agrees with that. I've already made plans when we make our annual ski trip next year with my buddies. I'm like, we've got to do a stop at Seed & Smith. So I'm coming out next year already. But yeah, man, let's start the tour and we can continue the conversation. Let's see. This should be interesting. I'm excited. Now, if I remember correctly, how big is the grow?
So the grow is about 17,000 square feet, and that includes all the stuff like the hallway. And this is kind of our work area. There's Robbie in the background. Oh. And, you know, our washout area, things like that. So there's about 17,000 square feet of total grow. We really kind of break it down into 15 real production rooms. We have one room, which is our early veg room, which I'll take you in first. Then we have 2 rooms also for veg that we call our high power veg. And then that all feeds into a cycle of 12 rooms that are flower rooms. And what's a little bit unique about Seed & Smith is that we run 12 cycles concurrently, but we offset them by about 5 days each, so that, you know, basically we have a fresh harvest out of Seed & Smith every 5 days. We take down a full room. And that's a fresh harvest that provides raw material for our extraction labs. That's a fresh harvest that goes out in ounces and eighths and things of that nature through the store, as well as, you know, getting ground up into joints and all that good kind of stuff. And so that's really kind of the, you know, the secret sauce, if you will, at Seed & Smith is this regular cycle that we keep up.
Very cool, man. So if I go into the tap room, so to say, the oldest product I'm probably going to get is 4 to 5 days at most. It's probably not even that.
Yeah, I mean that's a little bit pushing, right? Like it does take. There is kind of some time from the time we cut it down and harvest it until it dries, it cures appropriately, and then we have to throw it obviously in the state compliant packaging and everything like that. So I would say you're probably more like a couple weeks into it for the stuff that you see here at the shelf.
Somebody more familiar with the growing process would have asked a better question there, but
No problem. Well, look, on that note, let me take you into the early veg room and show you where it all begins.
So yeah, on that note, while we're going, and I know it's probably gonna be hard for you to listen while I'm talking, or while you're walking there, but I try to pull in a lot of people that may not be familiar with cannabis. So when we talk about veg, what exactly are the plants doing at this point?
Yeah, so there's basically two stages to cannabis production, and we divide them up. We call them vegetative stage, or veg for short, or flowering, or bloom. And basically, vegetative stage, it's pretty much what it sounds like. You're growing stems, leaves, roots, and flower sites. And so, most of the THC, right, that we're all trying to grow here, that we're all trying to extract, that we're all looking for in our flower, most of that is produced in the cannabis flower. And so what we do is we basically think of like veg as like getting ready for flower. We're growing these plants up to the appropriate size. We're growing the appropriate number of flower sites on the plant. We're getting the roots nice and healthy so that you have a really healthy plant when you go into the flower cycle to produce the maximum quality as well as, yield of flower that you can. So 2 stages, and the way we control those 2 stages is primarily through our lighting. When cannabis experiences darkness for 12 hours or greater, it will start to flower. So in our vegetative rooms, we keep all the lights on for well over 12 hours. In fact, we generally keep it on for 18 hours in our high intensity veg with the bright lights. And then we keep some kind of low intensity LEDs on 24 hours a day. When we switch over to flower, it's 12 hours of darkness, 12 hours of light, very, very consistently.
Nice. Well, let's check out the rooms.
All right, well, let's open up. So this is our early veg. And so in here is where we have our mother plants. And bear with me real quick here. Boom. Sorry, you know how I talked about how those lights are on for 18 hours? Well, we are in the 6-hour time frame where they're not. So sorry for the low budget. Here we go. Let's take 2. All right, this is our early veg room, and I'll talk pretty loud in here because there's a bunch of fans and everything like that. But here's kind of what I'm seeing right now.
Very cool. So we've got two racks going down there. Plants and veg. Looks very nice. Very cool.
And
so for those, I was just saying, for those of you folks who've never seen it grow before, it's much more of a scientific look, I would say, than an outdoor agricultural look to it.
Yeah, it's more of a factory than a grow, if you will. And bear with me while I push this ladder back, just to set the phone down. All right, my apologies there. But you can kind of see here, I'll walk you through. We've got a bunch of mother plants, which is where it all really starts here. And so from these plants that are directly in front of me, as well as these plants that are all kind of in this back row here, these are all mother plants. And what this is the genetic library. There's some more mothers up top here. And these ones have been recently trimmed up, and we've recently taken a bunch of clones from them.
Very cool. This is great.
And so the mother plant.
It's in great camera work. You're both on a ladder and filming.
Sorry, it's just a little bit hard to hear you.
Oh, no worries. And then I'll stop with the bad jokes.
Okay. So yeah, my apologies, everyone. So the mother plants is where all of the genetic library is held. And so what we do is we take cuttings off of these mother plants, and we call those clones, and they go into these domes that I'm looking at right here. So here are a bunch of kind of fresh clones that have recently been taken off a mother plant. And as you can see, we have several, kind of batches of the clones here. And each one of these boxes is going to be a different strain. And this is where it all really starts to fill out those 12 cycles. And so what I'm showing you here, all the way past the ladder on the other side, directly in front of me here, as well as on over this side, this is 3 of our future 12 flowering cycles, right? You got one room here, another set for a flower room here, and then one in the back that you can see behind the ladder. And so we're generally running, about 10 to 12 strains per cycle to go through to flower. These plants will spend about 10 to 12 days in their clone domes here before they kind of graduate to this stage where they come out in the less humid air, and we're really starting to grow some roots out of our cutting and starting to get things ready to go on to the next stage with some more intense light. You may notice all these blue and yellow tags. These are the state of Colorado tracking system that tracks from seed to sale. And so every plant gets assigned an identity and a specific code here once it grows roots and comes out of the cloning process. And that tag will stick with it all the way, whether we sell it as flower or whether we extract it, you kind of name it, all that stuff is tracked by us as well as the state of Colorado. So by the time the plants are this big, they've been in this room here for about 20 days, maybe 25 days before they're kind of ready to go on to the next stage in the cycle.
Very cool. This is first off, I'm going to commend you on the camera work. This is great. But the information's even better. I think there's a lot of people that are in the industry or learning about the industry, and they don't really know a lot of these simple things here, like the process. And obviously, you guys do a great job at it. So your approach to growing here, if I remember correctly, you take very much of like a botany scientific approach. It's all about inputs and outputs, right? And you're trying to get the most output that you can in the least amount of space. If I recall correctly, my trip to Colorado was part of a due diligence team. We saw another grow that was probably 3 times the size of yours, but they were putting out about the same amount of product. So, I commend you on that for sure.
Yeah, and sorry, we got some work going down here. I'm just gonna go where I can hear you guys. So yeah, we're operating all the time. It's just quite about the end of the day here, but we kind of run our packaging shift all the way up to the wee hours. But yeah, to answer your question, really the name of the game here at Seed & Smith is, like, first of all, we kind of set a bar for quality, and we want to make sure that we are able to maintain the high level of quality that we're always putting out there. So we have this weird thing where we do operate kind of small batch. I wouldn't call us a large super scale grow by any means. I refer to us as kind of small but mighty, right? And so it's not only do we set that bar quality, but it becomes like, once you achieve those good strains and the good growing techniques, how can you yield as much as possible per square foot per year, right? Or per month or per harvest, whatever you want the time to be. And, ultimately that's kind of what we've spent the last 10 years with the Kaya business and the Seed & Smith business, at least as far as I'm concerned, figuring out. And, this place does produce stuff on the scale of, a facility that can be 2 times or 3 times the size.
That's awesome, man. As far as strains go, how do you balance, bringing new strains to market versus bringing to market what people want or what there's demand for? I'm sure everybody has kind of their old favorite, but I'm always down to experiment with something new. I mean, how do you strike that balance in figuring out the strains that you're going to have?
Yeah, so that's a fine line to walk. You know, the best thing I can compare it to is like a power rankings list for a sports team. You know, look, there over the years we've seen a lot of good players, right? And at Seed & Smith, we generally run 25 to 30 strain months. So, you know, you kind of see our full product suite every 2 months, because that's how long it takes for the flowering stage to happen. And, you know, we look for various criteria. Obviously, the quality one's big there. We look at terpene content. We look at, as well as terpene profile, you know, which terpenes are available in the plants. Obviously, we look for THC and THC content. But I can tell you it's not always the strongest strain that gets you the most high, or it's not always the strongest strain that feels the best. You know, the analogy there is when we all go out for a drink after all this nonsense is over and support all our friends in the bar and restaurant industry, you know, I'm not going to go straight to the Everclear, right?
Yeah.
It's not always, you know, high content wins here. It's really kind of this mix. And then we look at growability, you know, is it susceptible to disease? All sorts of things that you'd look for in any sort of agricultural outfit. And honestly, if it meets all those criteria and fits the power ranking list, it goes right in there. And, you know, whoever is number 30 or 31, you know, kind of goes back into our genetic storage. And, you know, so that's typically how we do it. But we also, like you said, we like to keep it fresh. We like to keep it new. And so we devote a certain amount of our facility to seasonals. And quite honestly, the people who work here, the Seed & Smith team does such a good job that we let them make a lot of the choices. And so, for example, we have a grower's choice strain that is released every 2 months or so. And that's something that the growers have just picked because they want to grow it and they know it's awesome. You know, similar things with on the extraction side, right? Every couple months we release an extractor's choice, and it's something that they pick because they like it and they know it's going to be amazing, and it doesn't necessarily have to meet all this power rankings criteria. So sorry, that was a little bit long-winded, but that's the overview of how we choose.
I think it's extremely important to know. I mean, it's part of the business. I mean, that's what we focus on the show. And it's interesting to understand how you make that decision, right? Because there are so many strains out there, and people are there's two groups of people. There are the legacy consumers that know what they like, and they're educated on this. And then there are the new people and the tourists that are coming to you and need the education. So to have a nice variety to let people know that, I'm 100% with you. You go to California and a lot of the dispensaries, they'll steer you towards whatever has the highest THC content. Now, I haven't been out there in a little bit, so I hope that's changed. But I think people need to pay attention more to terpene profiles and things of that nature, because it's going to affect you different. And that's really how you're going to find similar strains that you like. So I think all of this education is certainly pertinent. I think, you know, a lot, you guys might be spoiled in Colorado with the general education of the public, but here in Florida, I think we only got about 400,000 or 500,000 patients right now.
Yeah, and, you know, look, it's something that we're working towards. And, you know, with any new industry, right, it's so important that, you know, we're doing our best. We're lucky to be here, right? I mean, you heard my story. I'm so lucky to be here. And so yeah, one of the best things I can do is say, hey, you know, this is how we do it. Come check it out. Come ask questions. You know, we'd be happy to talk about what we do and why we do these things. And then, you know, quite honestly, what, you know, my pitch to the customers and patients is, you know, make the choice, right? You know, you see how we do it. You see what's going into this. You see our methods. You know, decide if this is the project, if this is a product for you. And, you know, we've had a lot of success with that transparency. And, I don't know. It's fun. I like giving the tours.
Yeah. I mean, so you get to run a cannabis company with the help of your friend's World Series of Poker earnings. I mean, like I said, that's every teenager's fantasy right now.
Yeah. You know, I will tell you that way back in the day, you know, sitting under the stairs and that kind of thing, We did have like one of the worst ideas for a name for a cannabis company, you know, like it all involves stuff like greener greens, greenest, you know, whatever it might be. And I'm just really happy we came up with Seed & Smith.
It's a great name. It's funny. The other day, you know, my dad obviously he's not familiar with the industry, but he knows a minute. He's like, "Oh, I met someone the other day that works for a cannabis company. Name some of the companies that have green in it." I go, 87% of the industry, Dad.
Right. I mean, I hear you. Well, let me do this. Let me walk you into our second room in the supply chain here.
Cool.
This is our we call this late veg or high power veg. I'll show you some of the differences.
Very cool.
Okay. So here, this room is one of our late veg rooms. It's powered by, this is new for us. We've looked at, had the ability to look at lots of different lighting technologies over the years here. This is our current favorite, some real high intensity LED lights for vegetative purposes. And what you see in here is you see 2 more of these 12 cycles. You see these here that are all in these 1 gallon pots. Here's my hand for kind of size comparison. Okay. So they all kind of come up here. And once again, you got all our medical tags, which are these yellow tags, our recreational tags, which are these blue tags. But these plants, you know, just kind of graduated from that 3.5-inch pot stage and have been here in high intensity veg for, I'd probably say 5 to 7 days after coming out of that other room. You can start to see a little bit, you know, the strains differing out. So for example, these ones down here close to me, right? They're a little skinnier, a little taller, if you will, compared to, you know, something here that's starting to be a little more bushy and things of that nature. But at this stage, it's really hard to tell. After about 10 days under this intense light, they'll start to look like this. And these pots are much bigger for size comparison. Now there's my hand, right?
Yeah.
And so these is kind of the last stage in veg before we're going to go off into one of our flowering rooms. And so you can see, you know, they're pretty consistent. Obviously there is some strain difference, but it's, you know, it's a little hard to tell at this point.
So at a certain point, maybe in the flowering stage, when you're looking at the plants, can you recognize the strain just by looking at the plant for the most part?
Yeah, and that's really apparent at the end of the flowering phase. So I'll take you into a room that is near the end of flowering next, and it'll be readily apparent. I think even through the video here, it'll be readily apparent that these things are pretty different. But they don't really show that quite yet.
I got to say, this is working out as good as I thought it would. This has been a very nice tour. I'm commending the camera work so far, especially considering we're using a cell phone and Zoom.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Apple will take us up for iPhone commercials.
Start a little production company here. Grow tours by phone.
So this is what we call either late veg or high power veg. I don't know if switching the angle screws with you too much, but that's kind of the overall view there.
Very cool. And then, so those lights are also adjustable. I'm looking, it looks like they're on chains.
Yeah. And so what we do is there'll be times for us when we want to adjust the intensity of the light based on the strain. And so in general, we have a very consistent amount of light throughout the canopy. But there's times when we'll want to turn up the intensity here or there or the other. And we do that by changing the height of the light over the plants. And so here, it's a little hard to tell on the camera, but here, right, we're a little closer. You know, the strains that we have under here at this late stage in veg, they just kind of perk up a little bit with some additional light. These strains are a little bit on the opposite side. And so we've got, I don't know if you can tell, but the lights are a little bit higher.
Yeah. Very cool. So at this stage, are there a lot of issues that come about? You know, how do you mitigate the issues that might be affecting your plants, or do those come in later stages?
Are we talking about like pestilence and things of that nature?
Like anything.
Like molds, mildews, bugs, you name it.
Yeah.
So the battle against pestilence starts from really day zero, right? With those mother plants. If you got healthy mothers, you'll have healthy clones. If you have healthy clones, you'll have healthy veg plants, which translate to healthy flower plants, which translate to good yields, high quality, consistent quality and yields. We do have a pest management program that we run throughout the entire system. Ordinarily, you don't, I'll tell you this, if you see a bunch of problems, if you go into a grow and you see a bunch of problems in their vegetative stage, they're really doing something wrong, because, you know, these pestilent problems, you know, first of all, I can tell you that it's, you know, it's not easy, but, you know, we are very capable of growing these things indoors without pestilence problems. Not that we haven't been through them, but, you know, there are solutions to all these things. But generally, pestilence problems are really going to show up in the last 2 weeks. That would be of flower growth. And that's going to be the first earliest signs in a grow that you're seeing anything, because the plants are older, right? They've had the most chance to develop the issues and things of that nature. So we'll go show you some of those plants. But yeah, you know, short answer is that the pest management system really starts with your mothers and needs to go all the way through.
Very cool.
Well, with that, I'm going to kind of walk out of this veg room here, and I'll kind of make my way towards one of our flowering rooms.
Now, this is the one that I'm very excited for. When I remember going to a...
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm excited. I'm very excited to show the flower room. When I walked in the first time, that was like the life-changing experience.
So this room here, we lovingly refer to as room 14. And let's see, these were planted, or sorry, these not planted, but these went into flower on Halloween, October 31st. They should be harvested on New Year's Day. So I guess it's good the trimmers aren't going to be out partying all night, you know, this year. We start harvest at 7 a.m. But maybe we'll push it to the 2nd, you know, in the spirit of the holidays. But
I mean, cannabis users don't have to worry about hangovers so much, so they might be chipper and ready to go.
You know, there you go. Or maybe they'll just play through, right? Yeah, we can get rid of my ugly mug here, and I'll kind of show you. First thing you notice, I turn yellow in here, right? So one thing you're going to notice in the flower room is we use a different spectrum of lights, and we use a high pressure sodium bulb, and which promotes our flower growth. So yeah, this will be the first New Year's baby, right? Cut down. And I'm going to go up on a step ladder here to kind of give you guys the full view of what we can see in one of these rooms.
Well, that looks beautiful.
Turn it if that's okay.
Yeah.
And so here we got 8 different rows. We can kind of go through and look at some of the individual strains. But here, you know, in these tall plants, you've got, they're going to be heavily sativa, or, you know, if they're hybrids, you know, they've got more sativa in them than indica, that's for sure. As opposed to something like this row that's right in front of me. I don't know if you can see the height difference.
Huge height difference, like at least a foot or two.
Yeah, and so kind of here's my hand up next to this bud for size.
Wow. It's like a football.
And, you know, so here's something that's much more heavily indica based. Shorter, squatter, denser nugs. And then, you know, over here, here's something that truly is kind of hybrid.
It's amazing how the different strains grow so differently in the way the buds look and the shade of green. I mean, even seeing it through the yellowness of the bulbs is incredible.
There we go. I just killed the fans for a second, so hopefully we can hear each other a little better. But you know what I might do
You've
here
been coming in great.
I might come in and look at some close-ups of some of the different strains for y'all.
Very cool.
So this strain here, this is Taffy.
Wow, that actually zooms in very nicely too. It's beautiful.
And maybe if I go down here where it's a little less intense light, it comes through a little better.
This is a great teaser for the in-person tour.
Oh, it's way better in person.
I can definitely agree with that.
So coming down to our next row here, this is Chem de la Chem. This is heavy indica.
Nice. One of my personal favorites from Seed and Smith was the Mac 1 that you guys were growing earlier this year. I don't know if you still have it.
The Mac 1, don't get too far ahead of me now. I think we might get lucky in this room.
Yes.
Let's see. Here, sorry, some more Chem. All right, and we're coming into not all right, Malibu Sunrise.
Beautiful. So
this one's a little more newer for me, so thanks, Robbie.
Nice. Oh wow, that came in very nicely. So, question about this. So, for people who don't know, the fencing essentially is to keep the plants off each other, right? Kind of keep them contained. Just explain to what you have to do with the plants to make sure that they're going to be done properly in that room. Yeah,
so here's kind of a perfect shot to kind of describe that. As you can see, some of these colas leaning towards the middle of the aisle, right? What happens is as you get to the the late part in the flowering cycle, the buds swell up, they get really heavy, and we have to put in this trellis. You can kind of see these squares here. This is like a tight netting that extends. It's a little hard to tell. You can maybe see it on the bottom the best, but extends all the way down the row. You see that grid? And so what that does is that keeps our branches tied up. It keeps them from bending over. Really what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get the most amount of light possible through the vertical canopy. And so you can kind of see if we get down to the bottom, it's pretty dark. There's not a lot of light there. I think they did a pretty good job here, because if you get to kind of these buds here, right, you don't have a lot of underdeveloped buds at the bottom. If you're not giving your plants the appropriate light, the appropriate feed, et cetera, that's going to be one of the major things that leads towards pestilence, whether that's mold or bugs. That stuff likes unhealthy plants. And so if you can keep it tied up, if you can keep it in the light, you're going to set yourself up for success. And so you can kind of see these trays, they're really easy to move. So I'll make some room here. That's my finger. But you can kind of see here, right? They get heavy and they start to lean. And then whereas this isn't concerning in the last couple days here before we harvest, this is much more concerning, over the whole 60 days that these plants are in here.
It's incredible.
Coming down, we looked at the Malibu Sunrise. All right, hey, here is your Mac 1. This stuff looks great.
It does. I wish I was going to be there on New Year's. Or later.
It's about a
few weeks after.
2-3 weeks after. Here's kind of a great shot of the Mac 1. I don't know if you can tell the trichome coverage and all that, but it looks frosty.
It looks very nice.
And then there's kind of the top down for the Mac 1.
The Mac has a very nice top on it.
Yeah, it really kind of just stacks up, right? Christmas trees.
Yeah, it's festive.
You know, when we had the live tours in here last year, we put some Christmas lights up on the plants. It was fun.
I was
probably missing it this year.
I was gonna ask about that, if putting lights on them would affect it at all. It just makes them jollier.
I think so. You know, I definitely think Santa smokes weed, so he's got it with all that work.
I mean, why do you think everyone leaves cookies for him?
You got it. And then this is Buddha Tahoe OG. So you can kind of see these indica flowers. They really kind of bunch up nice and tight, is where they grow.
Nice. Well, this is great.
So I'll give you kind of one more pan of the room and then kind of walk you guys through to extraction.
Very cool.
So we'll do it this way. Sorry for switching.
No, you're good. We need you to focus on growing weed, not your camera skills. So we can forgive you here. It's incredible. And how many rooms of this size do you guys have?
So this is one of our larger rooms, but you know, give or take, they're all about the same size, right? Some have an extra row, some don't. And so we have 12 of these flowering rooms. And like I said, you know, this room comes down very soon. But there's a room that's 5 days younger and a room that's 10 days younger and 15 days younger and so on until you get all the way up to 60. All right. Well, and now for something not quite so pretty, I'll flip it around back to my face.
Well, the voice of you moderating this is absolutely great. So I guess we'll just put up with it until we get over to extraction.
Sounds good. You know, if Planet Earth is hiring, you know, I'm happy to do voiceovers for that as well.
Yeah, I'll send them this as a demo tape.
You know, the wild Mac 1. Sorry, it's getting late in the day. We have to have a little fun.
Well, I love the fact that when I went on the tour, it ended in the gift shop. You know,
hey.
I love how you guys do that. It's just like Disney World, except with better souvenirs.
I think I have to credit my mom with that. She's the one who told me every good tour ends in the gift shop. Don't think she coined it, but she definitely lived it.
I still have my Seton Smith dart right here.
Hey, fantastic. That's a good thing to have around for the holidays.
It is.
I'll just show you guys here the live tour, you know, when we're back up and running. This is kind of what it looks like. So you guys, you know, people get to come in here and you get to see kind of full storefront windows into grow rooms and how all that works. So this is actually the other side of the glass from the room that we were just in.
Very cool. So what, you know, there aren't too many companies that advertise tours of their grows. I mean, they do it for VIPs and things like that. What was the reasoning behind having the tour? Was it just transparency, or were you just like, hey, this would be fun to show people? They do winery tours, they do, you know, distillery tours. Why not cannabis tours?
Yeah, you know, look, when I grew up in Boulder, and you know, kind of right during the microbrewery explosion, and so instead of, you know, going to our liquor store and everything like that, we just went to tap rooms. And, you know, we love getting tours from the brewers and everything like that. And, you know, quite honestly, we wanted to do the same thing for cannabis. And I don't think there's any reason why you can't. You know, we ran into some challenges discussing about, you know, where we were going to allow access and are you giving away the secret sauce and things of that nature. But look, ultimately, I can tell you that running a cannabis company, it's all about execution. It takes a good head on your shoulders. It takes good people. It takes a lot of hard work, you know, just like anything. And so, you know, that's the secret, is building that team. And, you know, if somebody wants to come in and use the same lights that we're using or whatever it may be, so be it. We welcome competition like that. But we think showing it off is the right thing to do, and we have a fun time doing it.
Very cool, man. We're in extraction now, right?
Yeah. So if you can see behind me, this is our extraction room here. I'll flip it around so you don't have to look at me quite so much. So this is our CO2 extractor here, and maybe this is the best way to show it. And so what we've got here is these first two. Sorry, you have to forgive me. We're out for a bit for service on one of the pumps. But if you want to see what this thing looks like in the back, there's kind of a rare view at one of those.
Wow.
So complicated manifold. That big empty spot right there is where the pump goes. That thing will be back in a couple days after we rebuild it. But basically what happens here is this is CO2 extraction. And so we have all our CO2 storage here. And then what we do is each of these tall columns, sorry, I'm used to like grabbing the machine as I talk through this. So each of these two columns can hold about 10 pounds. Sorry. Each of these columns can hold about 10 liters of ground up cannabis material, which ends up being about 5 pounds in each. So 10 pounds total. And what we do is we use our pump as well as some heaters and chillers on the back of the machine to get CO2 to act either just subcritical or just supercritical, which is basically a state that which the CO2 compound can be in. It kind of acts like a liquid and a gas simultaneously as you get close to this critical point. And the reason why we do all this is because that acts as a very good solvent for terpenes on the subcritical side and cannabinoids on the supercritical side. And we basically get the terpenes to dissolve into the CO2. Then we pump it into this expansion chamber and we heat up the gas and we collect all our CO2. And then down here, we pump all of our terpene yield into this isolation cup. This machine is computer controlled, and then the computer resets the parameters for our CO2, and we fill up the extraction columns again. This time we pump it into expansion coil 2. This time we're targeting THC instead of terpenes. Expand the gas, collect the gas, and our CO2 THC yield comes off in this vessel down here. So that's the quick 101 on CO2 extraction. Now I'll take you guys over here and we'll look at hydrocarbon extraction. So they're actually running the machine in the room right now. I don't know if you can hear it, but there's like a pump going.
Lightly, yeah.
So I can't take you in there right now because per regs, if they're running compressed hydrocarbon explosive gas, I can't bring phone or electronics or things like that into the room.
Good.
But this here, this is like your fat head, of your favorite football player. Or I had one of Joe Sakic, hockey player, So we got one made of the extraction machine. And it's a little bit different these days, as in there's more columns like this. But this will give you guys the gist. And so it's similar to the CO2 process. This column here holds about 2.5 pounds of ground up cannabis. We're now expanded we have 2 additional ones, so we can process 7.5 pounds at a time. And then over here, so in here, the cannabinoids and the terpenes will dissolve into our hydrocarbons. We'll pump it into this vessel here, where we expand the hydrocarbons and collect all of them back as a gas. And our THC yield will be down in this vessel in the bottom. And this is how we make our shatters, waxes, sugar waxes, and live resin products.
Very cool. That is not areas I have explored myself yet. You know, being, you know, Colorado's been around for a long time. It's a very mature market. How would you say people adopt? Would you say more people are still purchasing flower, or concentrates becoming a lot more popular because, I mean, you know, newer and they weren't really in the black market as much?
Yeah, you know, I mean, flower's king, right? Yeah, but we've seen in the last couple of years, we've seen we've seen concentrates grow significantly. I don't want to quote you because I'm probably going to say it wrong, but, you know, I'd say concentrates are, you know, probably over 35-40% of the market in Colorado at this point.
Very cool.
So here's some of those hydrocarbon products that have come out. So what you're looking at here is some live resins. So this was a super cold extraction. And now we're running a relatively cold vacuum process here. And what those bubbles are that's any of the remaining hydrocarbon in the product off-gassing and bubbling out of solution. When we run this stuff, for years now, we've been able to submit our extract products to third-party testing labs and have a 100% success rate of 0 detectable hydrocarbons in any of the remaining products. So this is something we're really proud of. And this is kind of the end of that process where we're off-gassing that. You can kind of see there's a couple pie dishes in here, and these are different strains. And so you're going to see some different coloration, right?
That's very cool. You ever accidentally look in there and see like a pecan pie or an apple pie?
I haven't caught the extractors doing that quite yet. Quite honestly, they're more excited about this stuff than pies. So, you know, but to each their own, you know. So here's some more. So this here is some of our sugar wax products. I can't open it for you right now because it's under vacuum and I just don't have the physical strength. But you've got some Cushmint, sugar wax. You can start to see it forming up there. Here we've got some Tango sugar wax. You can kind of get in there. Tango is super high terpene content, and that's what you're seeing, that kind of dark saucy stuff on top. And then we got some more Cushmints here in the bottom. Let's see. You know, most of this stuff, I apologize for the hour. Most of this stuff doesn't run overnight. It runs during the day when the staff is here. So these ovens get filled up regularly on a daily basis.
Very cool. Wow. So we have, if I remember correctly, after this is the gift shop, which unfortunately not everybody watching can participate in. But is there anything left on the tour here?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the basics. You know, I do want to stand on my soapbox while I have an audience here real quick, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
At the end of our tour, what we like to do, and I have no idea if that's coming in forwards or backwards for you, but
forwards. We're good.
Screen. But, you know, look, I think the true fact of the matter here is that we're still a Schedule I substance with the feds. And, you know, that's BS, quite honestly. And we just want to encourage everybody to go out and vote. If you're watching this tour, you know, I'm probably guessing you're a little pro-cannabis or you're at least interested. And so, you know, please join the movement. Please, whether it's in Colorado or whatever state, in Florida or wherever you guys are, you know, go vote. That's how cannabis got passed in Colorado, and that's how it's going to get passed everywhere else. I also want to realize that, you know, people to realize that we are really lucky to do this. And, you know, quite honestly, if I wasn't a white guy from Boulder, Colorado, you know, growing up the way we did, I may not have the opportunity to do this now. And so it's something that we take seriously here at Seed & Smith. And, you know, we want to encourage everything we can do to make sure that the racial disparity, especially in cannabis arrests, you know, goes to zero. It's a project. It's a product here that a lot of people can benefit from. And anyway, just kind of wanted to say my piece there. And you know, please go vote and please help change things to the way that they should be.
Very cool, man. Well, we certainly all agree with you. You're 100% right on every note there. I'm glad that's how you end each tour. The nice thing is, in this last election, cannabis won out. Every measure that was on the ballot won. So hopefully that continues to be a trend and it continues to move forward. And we love seeing people like you doing what you're doing and putting out amazing product, man. Thank you so much for being kind enough to be our guinea pig on this iPhone tour of Seed and Smith, man. Before I let you go, you stood on the soapbox. Let's tell everybody where they can find you. I want to congratulate you because you talked about the power rankings. You were on the Pioneer Data power rankings of brands this last week as well, too. Pretty high up there. So, when you look at it from a national standpoint, that's very impressive. So I love what you guys are doing. And hopefully I'll get to come back out there pretty soon.
Yeah, we can't wait to see it. Can I show you guys our newest release product? In fact, I think this is hitting the shelf today, right, Robbie?
Absolutely.
So this is our Extractor's Choice. Let me flip it around here. Hopefully the phone does it justice. But what we've done is we've done a limited edition here, a 4-gram limited edition that the extractors have chosen. They didn't have to meet the power rankings as far as yield or anything like that. It's just pure what they thought was the best. So this is our Black Jack live resin. You can see nice. It's super saucy. It's a 1-to-1 terpene to THC content. Not only that, it's a limited edition. We're actually numbering them. So there's only 100. And it comes with a hat here. And, we're trying to do our part everywhere we can. This artwork is done by a local tattoo shop, a local tattoo artist that has really been shut down because of COVID and the regs there. And so, hey, we had a little project. Let's see if we can kind of keep everybody doing what they're doing. So come get Seed and Smith Extractor's Choice or any of the other great products that we have. You can find us in Denver. We're not far from the airport. We're at 5070 Oakland Street. And you can find us on Weed Maps. You can find us on iHeartJane. You can find us on our website at www.seedandsmith.com.
Awesome, man. Well, Brooks, I really appreciate you doing this. And like I said, hopefully we'll see each other again soon.
Yeah, Todd, it's been a real pleasure. Let's do another one.
Awesome, dude. Well, thank you. And thank you, everybody at home. We're going to be live at 6:30 p.m. tomorrow with Robert Beasley, the CEO of Fluent, right here at facebook.com/Cannabis Group. Of course, if you missed any part of this tour, you'll be able to see it next week on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ElevateYourGrind. And of course, don't forget about the February 6th, the C-Lab annual conference, and check that out at joinclab.com. It's been another episode of Elevate Your Grind. We'll see you tomorrow.